What's good, everyone? It's CJ. We're back at it again today. Today, I'm going to make a tutorial on the new Logic 10.5 update, specifically the new samplers that they just added. These samplers, were definitely needed in Logic. The old EXS24, I wasn't really vibing with it anymore. It needed an update. So, shout out to Logic for stepping it up and finally making those changes. Um, Wanted to shout out Splice as well. Splice hit me up asking me to use some of their sounds in my next tutorial. If you're not already a member of Splice, which is probably unlikely at this point, but if you're not, you should definitely go check them out. They got thousands of sounds that you could use for your music production. Let's get the ball rolling. I got a new Logic session up right now, and we're going to create a new software instrument. I'm going to do that right now. The first thing I'm going to do is drop in a new sampler here. So we have two new samplers in Logic. We got the sampler multi-sample, and then we have the quick sampler single sample. So if you're working with one sample, it's probably optimal for you to use the quick sampler in single sample mode. I'm going to use that in stereo. Right off the bat, the new sampler looks really dope. It's really well thought out how everything's laid out. It's clean and sleek looking. So again, thank you Logic for making these updates. Right in the middle here, you have an area where you can load your sample. You could either drag and drop them in here, or you could just click on it, and then you could browse to the samples that you want to load. So we're going to start out with a loop for this. The loop comes from a sample pack that I put up on my website, frequency.com, called Quarantine Fiend. If you haven't already downloaded it, I would definitely recommend it. It's 18 loops, super fire, that you could use in your next beats. The sample I'm going to use here is called Duke of Ellington in 102 BPM G flat. I'll go ahead and hit open now. Once the sample is fully loaded, it's really nice with the new sampler. You get to see all the transients of that sample right in front of you. That'll make it really easy, to slice it up and use certain parts of that sample. So what I'm going to do is hit slice at the top here. It'll automatically detect all of the transients and start placing slices at those transients. I'm not really a fan of it, to be honest with you. I always like to go manual when it comes to sample chopping, so I'm going to change the mode to manual. Now I can go ahead and zoom into this. I'm just using my mouse here to scroll in and zoom. And I could start placing these markers myself. So at first I go very, very rough with the sample chops, meaning I'm just placing them at points where I think the sample chop should be. And then I'm going to start refining that in a minute. Once I've placed my sample chops in like that, I'm going to zoom in now. And now I can, be real specific with where I want these samples to be chopped. As I'm placing these sample chops, they're already mapped to my MIDI keyboard, so I could actually go ahead and start playing these right away. As you can see right now, these samples are bleeding into each other. I really don't want that, so I'm going to set my polyphony to 1 so that they always, chop each other off as I play the next sample. So I'm going to go ahead and refine this a little more here. You can use the bar down below to, move left and right. Okay, once you've refined all your sample chops, the next thing I would do is use the fade in, and make a fade in here so that the clicking noise gets reduced. That fade in will definitely reduce the clicking noises between samples. So be sure to use the fade in. I'm going to try and come up with a sample pattern that I vibe with. So let's go ahead and up our BPM to maybe 130. See how that goes. If you're still hearing, these chopping noises, sometimes you have to like refine the slice itself, but you could also use the ADS section down here and, ease in the attack a little bit. So that's really noticeable, that clicking noise. So you could use the attack. Around 20 milliseconds sounds good. If the sample sounds too slow for the BPM that I set, you can use a pitch function down here and pitch up the sample a little bit. That's a pretty dope section, so just going to quantize my selection. Want to open it up a little bit. I'm going to use a reverb for that. Let's use a Space Designer and stereo. Changing the length of the reverb a little bit. Next thing I'm going to do is drop an EQ on it and cut out the low end. Maybe we can increase the high ends, high mids to highs. A little bit of a cutoff at the very top there. Push that one off to the side. Let's come up with another section here that we could use. The sample sounds too fast now. We can bring that pitch down a little bit. Go ahead and refine those a little bit, quantize them first. Starting a little too slow. Maybe bring it up by one. Still too slow. All right, I fuck with that. See if that still matches up with the first one. Okay, once you got your chops ready, I'm going to manipulate this a little more here. Let's bring in a halftime by Cable Guys. Got the fading instant, fade out instant. Let's do a half loop and maybe change the mix a little bit here. Change that maybe to 1 bar. Okay, let's go ahead and drop in a Softclipper. So I'm going to go to Distortion, Overdrive, and Stereo. I'm going to choose my Softclipper. If you don't have the Softclipper, it's because you haven't watched my Softclipper tutorial. I'll put a link in the description for that so you can check it out. Definitely helps with the output, you know, making sure it doesn't clip but still sounds clean. The samples don't sound loud enough, you could always go in, use this guy right here, make sure it says note velocity. You could find that right there. Bring all your sample chops up. Okay, let's go ahead and start adding a bass line to this using an 808 from Splice. Open up a new software instrument. Let's go down to quick sampler one more time, this time in mono. I always like putting my 808s in mono. Let's pick a 808 that sounds good. Sound selection is really important. You always want to make sure the sounds match each other well. I've said this in other tutorials as well, but let's go ahead and play this, and then we're going to you know, play some of the Splice sounds and see what matches nicely. I like this this 808 right here. This is from the Murder Beatz Quarantine drum kit. I'm gonna drop that into make sure it's on original. Maybe we could change the attack by like 1 millisecond. Let's go over to one shot with this. Just make sure, you know, the sample plays all the way through. Also set your polyphony to 1 so it chops off. And you know, maybe the decay on this is a little too much. So we can change, you know, how we could change how much it'll decay. Let's do like 260 milliseconds. Might be too slow. That might be too short. Let's bring it up a little bit. Find that, you know, find that happy medium. All right. Once that's done, click out of it. Use your MIDI keyboard to find a, you know, find an 808 pattern that matches your sample. I always play my 808s at a higher octave first so that I can hear it well. Simple 2-note pattern there. Bring all those volumes up, quantize it to an 8th note. I want that attack a little slower though. When that's done, let's go ahead and get into the drums. Open up a new software instrument. Let's get into a sampler, this time in multi-sample mode, so we can drop in multiple samples, you know, kicks, snares, etc., etc. And I like going with the multi-output. The multi-output will allow me to route different sounds to my channel strip down here. So I hit X to bring up my mixer. Let's close this out for 1 second, because the first thing I'll do is expand those channel strips from that sampler. This way we can route all of the individual drum sounds onto either stereo tracks. These are the ones that are fatter, or mono. So like kicks, you know, things that should be in the middle always, I like doing mono. And then, you know, other percussive and, you know, other percussive sounds and snares and claps and stuff can go on stereo, so that we could pan them left and right. Specifically also the hi-hats. Okay, let's bring up that sampler one more time. The first thing I do is simplify the look of the sampler. Sometimes there's you know, too much stuff on there, and I just want to simplify the look. So I'm going to turn off the mod matrix, turn off the modulators, and enable mapping. So all I have enabled is the synth and the mapping. Synth up top here, and the mapping below. So the mapping will allow me to map, you know, my various sounds that I'm going to be using, the drum sounds, onto my keyboard. And up here I can, you know, and up here in the synth section, I can, you know, refine the pitch. You could also, you know, hit details and get a lot more functionality out of that sampler. Okay, let's go ahead and find a hi-hat that we want to use for this. I like this wide one right here, so I'm going to drop that into my sampler on C1. Next thing I'm going to do is expand it, because I want to pitch this hi-hat up and down. So I'm going to do that now. And I'm just, you know, basically selecting the range from C0 to C3 on my keyboard for this hi-hat. So I'm able to play it at different pitches. So let's close out of that. Let's create a new MIDI region right here. I'm going to select maybe let's do a 4-bar region. Loop up that 4 bars. Let's double click so we can get into that MIDI region and draw in a hi-hat pattern. So I'm going to use my brush tool. If I hit Command, I'm going to, you know, be able to use my brush tool for this. 8th note is good to start. Let's find a pitch that we like. I like that one right there. So let's go ahead and hold Command down and draw a 1-bar 8th note hi-hat pattern. These might be a little too loud. So what you could do is, you know, select your midis and bring them down equally like this. Or you could also hit this guy right here and bring them down individually if you like. Holding Shift down to select every second one like this. And then I'm going to lower the velocity of those. Great. Now you can go ahead and select those again. Hit Command R to duplicate your selection, you know, for that 4-bar region. Now we can get into, you know, adding some rolls in this hi-hat. Again, using the brush tool, but this time around, let's go like with a faster selection, maybe 132, and then find some different pitches of the hi-hat that we want to implement. You could also do some triplets here. Let's do a 16th triplet. Depending on where your 808s are, you'd want to put the, you know, the hi-hat rolls in between those 808s to give it a little more bounce. Let's go back to an 8th note. Maybe we can, you know, put some, maybe we can emphasize a few, areas here. That sounds pretty dope. Simplicity is always key. You know, don't go too crazy with the hi-hat rolls. Just going to hit Command R to duplicate that. Okay, let's go to the sampler. Let's add some more samples. The beauty of the multi-output and the multi-sampler is that I can use one instance of the sampler. I don't have to use like 15 different EXS24s and map them to my keyboard, you know, still have the ability to, you know, have things at different pitches, as well as, you know, map my sounds to different, you know, different channel strips on my mixer. All right, so let's get a different sound here. that we could use. Maybe we could find a kick. This one's kind of dope. I like this Boy Wonder snare right there. So I'm going to drop the snare on, let's do it on F3 like this. Maybe we can, you know, select a different pitch range for that as well. Not as crazy as the hi-hats, but something to, you know, to try a different pitch with. Let's go to all downloads here and let's find a clap maybe that we want to add. Let's put that clap on, I don't know, let's put that on C4. Okay, maybe we'll put the clap in first. That's C4, so I can go up to C4, put my clap on all the threes. If they're not loud enough, you could select them all, drag them up in the note velocity. Maybe we'll use this Boy Wonder snare for some in-betweens. Go back to the sampler. Let's add a kick now. I'm going to find a kick here that would, you know, match that 808 well. I'm going to put that on, let's put that right before the clap like this. Kick's always nice and loud. If I go to my mixer right now, you can see that all the drum sounds are on this channel strip. Let's go ahead and start refining that. So I'm going to go over back to the sampler, hit the zones. Now you can see all the individual samples in that zone. Use a scroll over here and come over to the mixer section, and you can see the output right here. They're all on group, right? So the kick I wanted on a mono channel, and the kick is right there. So I'm going to use that and put that on a mono channel, 11. If it has one number, it's mono. If it's two numbers, it's stereo. Okay, that's an easy way to remember that. Put that on mono. Let's put the rest on stereo channel strips. Now you can see that all those sounds are mapped on the channel strips. This is going to help us out if we want to, you know, manipulate those specific samples further, but also if you're tracking out beats, you want to track all of those out with different stems, you could actually do that later on, and putting them in various channel strips will, you know, will put them in different tracks, but maybe a different tutorial for that. We don't get to that today. Let's keep working on those kicks. Go back to our MIDI region here and start adding some kicks. Sounds dope so far. I want to add maybe a few more percussive pieces. So if you're in zone still, just go over back to the keyboard section and let's find some percussive elements that we could add here. Definitely will need an open hat. Let's drop an open hat over here. And let's see what other percussive pieces that we can add here. Maybe a water droplet, why not? You could also use some shakers. And we'll use a bell like that too. Okay, so now we got some more sounds to work with. Let's find where we can... Maybe we could find an area where we can add this open hi-hat here. So if it's too loud, just bring it down. if you want to change the pitch of that specific, sound without having to, map it onto various, without having to map it like this, you could select the sound. Let's go to zones. That open hi-hat is already selected. So what's nice about the sampler is whatever sample you select here, you go to zones, it's automatically going to highlight it so you never really lose track. So over in the tune section right here, we can lower the tune or the pitch a little bit. That sounds better. Let's go ahead and bring down that velocity just a bit. If you don't like the area, you could just select where you want to put it. I like that one right there. Okay, so let's duplicate that. Command R. See if we could use some of these other sounds here. All right, once you vibe with that, you can just loop it, and let's see what it sounds like with this other section here. I fuck with that. Maybe we could change the 808 just a little bit. I'm going to chop it right here. So using my scissor tool and then hitting command and chopping it right there. So it becomes its own section now. I can manipulate it even further. Maybe we can add some glides to that. So I'm going to duplicate my 808 just by hitting Command D on that track, bringing this down. Now this sampler, let's go into the pitch area here and use the glide. So I chopped the drums up here so we can make various sections of the drums too. Maybe we'll have an area where there's no kicks. You can, just select your kicks like this, remove them. All right, dope. I really feel like this beat turned out kind of dope. You'd probably want to arrange the whole thing now, but never overdo it with your beats. Try to keep it simple. Leave room for the artist. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial today. If you have any questions, comments, or whatever, use the comment section for that. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification button so you're notified anytime I drop some new content. My name is CJ, and I'm out. Peace.